So, how many children do you have?
Three.
Three.
Yes.
What are,
Ready?
what are their ages?
22
Oh,
17
and 15.
oh,
Yes.
I see.
He said we can start out.
Yeah, we can start.
Oh.
Yeah. Mhm. We just look at each other, ignore the
Oh,
cameras.
yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
good. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad to have you in my program today.
Thank you.
for having
It's a
us.
privilege.
Yeah. You have both recently have a new starting point, like 3 years ago, and you even more recently, yeah, a few months
Yes,
ago.
Yeah, about 14 months.
Already 14 months, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's start with that, and then we'll go backwards
Okay.
toward what happened before. Yeah. So, Sabrina,
Yes.
you began 3 years ago to teach in a church school. Was that your desire? Was that your dream?
I cannot say that was my desire or dream initially.
Mm-hmm.
Upon graduating college, it was my desire to teach in public education.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I thought, well, this could be a great avenue for me to share Christ with those who may not come in
see.
contact with him,
Sure.
on a daily basis. That was initially. But I think along the way, my vision was kind of clouded, and, work gets in the way, and your actual expectations of, what you need to do. And I probably was not the best or effective witness probably that I should have been or could have been. And so the opportunity came up for me to make that transition.
What opportunities to witness can you have in a public school? Because there are some limitations, and there are some ways still. So what can be done in a public school?
Well,
in
you're
this
right.
respect?
There are lots of limitations with what you can say and what you cannot say.
Excuse me, in a way, this is good because otherwise every religion would try to
Absolutely. Yes, to influence the children one way or the other.
And I don't think that would make
Right.
schools a good place. I
Right.
think, it
Yes,
can be
neutral
debated.
ground,
It
definitely.
can be debated, but it's a protection in a way. So there are still some ways.
But you're right, and I worked through the different schools and through the years with lots of Christian teachers,
Yes.
lots of different religions,
Yes.
but one thing in common was that, we were Christians.
Yes.
The limitation for us as educators is we cannot initiate conversations
Yes.
of a spiritual matter.
Yes.
But if a child initiates or begins asking questions, probing
Yes.
questions,
Yes.
we are allowed to answer with our own experience, not to influence the child
Yes,
in
not
any
to
way.
indoctrinate. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
But to present, this is my experience, or this is what I believe.
Both in class and in private?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did it happen?
Absolutely. I
did.
even had students sometimes ask if they could pray before testing. I would say, well, I cannot lead a prayer for the class, but
Yes.
if you would like to have your own personal prayer. And a lot of children would say, I know how to pray. I know how to pray. Can I pray too? So I would
That's
encourage them to, if that's what you would
very
like to do.
encouraging. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So that was one way that I could kind of
Sure.
introduce a little Christianity into the classroom. But probably the most powerful way to introduce Christ in the classroom is just by your example and the way you treat the children and your influence on them. And so, I had many opportunities to do that.
However, 3 years ago, you had the opportunity to
Yes.
change the venue.
The school area that I was working in is a very low socioeconomic area.
Yes.
I encountered often children who were being mistreated or who were hungry or, were not coming to school bathed or things like that. And after a while, it really begins to affect you in a negative way. And I was feeling a lot of stress, a lot of, a little depression, I think, almost, now that I look back at it.
Yeah.
And so for a while, I was wanting to change jobs. I really wanted to change the county that I was working in. I said, this is too much for me. But the opportunity never presented itself. Every time I took classes or workshops, I would update my resume. I would apply to other school systems and nothing. And 3 years ago, each spring, the county sends out your contract, and you have 30 days to decide whether you want to sign your contract and come back, or you want to not sign the contract, and then, you're just kind of out there. And so during that 30 days, I was really, putting my feelers out there, trying to find an alternative to where I was at. And I think the contracts were due on a Friday. The previous Friday, I was talking to some friends, and we were wanting to leave together. And, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't stand to be here another year and everything. And we said, let's just pray about it. But I didn't pray about it. We said it, but I don't know that I actively, really honestly prayed about it. However, I believe that God heard my comments. That Monday morning, I was teaching, and I had a free block. And I came back to my classroom to look at the other website that had the job postings. And I was click. I will apply for everything, click. And I sat there, and what I believe now was the Holy Spirit whispered to me and said, why don't you look into the school that your children attend? My children attend an Adventist school in Duluth, Georgia. So I was like, So I go online and I look, and they had 2 openings.
2, not
2.
1.
So I knew the principal personally, and I gave her a ring, and her name was Miss Green. And I said, hi, Miss Green, this is Miss Patton, told her who I was. And I said, I'm looking to maybe make a change in my career. Do you have anything available? And she's like, I sure do. And then she also was telling me about the positions. And she said, go online and apply right now. So I did. That was Monday. On Tuesday, I get a phone call asking if I could come for an interview on Wednesday.
Wow.
On Wednesday, I went to the interview, and I got there a little early, and one of the people on the committee came out and said, sorry, we're running late. We're interviewing someone else right now. And I was like, I just kind of felt myself kind of sink a little, like, oh boy, competition. So she came out and got me. We talked, and I felt really confident, when I left, and kind of excited. The next day, Thursday, I got a phone call after school offering me the teaching position.
In 3 days.
The contracts were due that Friday for me to resign for that county. And I was offered the job that
24 hours
Thursday. Yes.
before.
And so just the way that it happened, I really feel was God ordained, and that He wanted me to be in that place. And now that I'm here at my school, I'm just so thankful every day for the opportunity to teach in
Why?
Adventist
Why?
Christian education.
What is different?
Well, one thing that's different is my colleagues and I begin each day having worship together. We pray for each other. We pray for each other's families. We pray for our students. And it's just a wonderful way to start the day. And I can go to class. We always start our day with worship and Bible. And not only do I get to present that to students, but a lot of times I'm presenting it to myself as well. Children have such a different view on biblical things or spiritual things that maybe I never even thought of before. And so not only are they benefiting, but I feel like I am as well.
Do you remember specifically something one of your students
Oh boy.
said?
Well, specific stories don't come to mind, but I will say that since I have been teaching there, that each year, each class, I have at least 2 or 3 students who choose to be baptized during the school year.
What a joy.
At my school, we have a group of students that are refugee students.
From Clarkson?
From Clarkston, yes. They're refugees from the countries of Burma or Thailand, most of them.
How do they fare in school?
Academically,
Yeah.
it varies. It varies. Some are just, they excel. It's like they're hungry for knowledge. And some really struggle,
Yes.
especially the older ones, because of language. They have to
cope with too many.
Exactly. They have to translate what you're saying, then they have to comprehend the content that you're trying to teach, then they have to give it back to you in English. It's a struggle for them. It's a struggle.
On top on what situations they may have
Absolutely.
at home in the family.
Absolutely. But I think they all have a hunger for education because their future is so much brighter. They know that if they are educated. And, you know, they want a better life. But a lot of the students were not raised Adventist.
Sure. Or even
A lot,
Christian.
not even Christian.
Christian, sure,
Exactly.
sure.
I have a little boy in my classroom right now. His father is actually a Buddhist priest. And every summer, the father does not want the boys to come to our school. He's just totally against it. And somehow the mom and Kelly, the lady who's in charge of the organization.
I interviewed her
You did?
5 years ago.
Yes. That's her heart. That's her passion.
And
They're
excuse
like
me,
another
and
mom.
She also came with 2 kids.
With 2 of the
So,
students?
for the last 10 or 15 minutes, they came also in the program.
Yeah, so you know firsthand, you know, some of the things that these children have to go through. And, but this little boy in particular, every summer his father, they shave their heads. They come to school with their heads shaved. They're not Christian. About 3 weeks, around Christmas time, we had a Christmas program at the Korean church. And the students in my class wanted to come, the refugee students, but they did not have a ride. So I told them I would come and pick them up.
Yes.
And so while the little boy who I'm referring to was one of the first ones to my car. And we were sitting in there and we were talking with the other couple of students, and he said, "Miss Patton, you know what?" And I said, "What?" He said, "My mom and my sister, they don't like that my brothers and I don't respect Buddha." And I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" He said, "My mom and my sister want us to pray to Buddha, but we told her that my student has a little brother and an older brother. So it's the 3 boys that attend our school. They're the youngest." They said, "My brothers and I told them that we're not going to respect Buddha, that we decided that we're going to worship God because he's a real God." He said, "Buddha's just an idol." And I was like, "Oh, that is really good." And I told him, you know, how proud I was of him, and, you know, that sometimes it's not going to be easy to stand up for what you believe in, but just to be able to stand up to his family members and proclaim that as a 4th grader, you know, he's already made a decision, he and his brothers. So when I have those kind of conversations and encounters, it just reaffirms like what our mission is, you know, what we're here for.
Let me ask you, how is the class relating to these refugee children?
They're one big family.
Really?
Everybody in my class is so accepting of everybody. I have a very multicultural classroom. I have 2 Korean students. I have a Romanian student.
Yeah.
I have an African American student. I have several refugee students. I have Hispanic students. So it's a melting pot. And it's just a great avenue for them to learn tolerance, acceptance. And I really try as a teacher to incorporate all the different cultures into the classroom. Like, oh, this is a special dish that they serve in Burma, or this is a national dish of, you know, if we're talking about food or cultures or celebrations and things like that. It's just a way for me to expose them to lots of different cultures, not
That's
just
a life-changing
American.
experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you raise them, or they grow like citizens of the world.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I return to you.
Yeah.
You had been through a different experience, but probably what Sabrina just shared with us was a little was of some help to you. What happened to her? So I know a little bit. Our viewers don't know, so it's up to you to explain.
Okay. Well, it was right around the time that she got her job
Yeah.
working for the church school in Duluth. Around that same time, I
You lost
my
your job.
So it was about 3 years
For
ago.
how long have you been working for that company?
I had been working for that company for 11 and a half years. And, you know, I was a manager, and it was just a situation where there wasn't as much work as we had previously, and so they just gradually started letting people go. So it was tough, but it was a blessing, and I didn't realize what was happening to her, the opportunity that she received, the benefit that it would be to our family, because, you know, we believed in Christian education, and we have 3 children, and we sent them all through Christian schools. One spent maybe a year and a half in public school or so, but our goal has been to keep them in Christian education. And, you know, Christian education, it costs.
Sure.
And so, you know, tuition was always a consideration. And so at the time that I lost my job, you know, I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to work. But the beauty of it was when she got the job working for the conference. The conference gives a discount for education. And so there was a wonderful benefit that I didn't see immediately, but it became apparent later on, and it happened just really before I lost my job. And so it was a rich blessing that I was not anticipating. I was looking, you know, solely at my situation. You know, this isn't fair. Why is it happening to
So
me?
how it was your situation?
Yes.
How it was it? Difficult, yeah? Difficult.
Yes. That was a consideration. Yeah, and for me, like I said, because I had been there for 11 years, I was very disappointed in the company because I had been there through a lot of growth, and I had helped to push people out and make them effective in their jobs, you know, as a manager and a leader. So I was a little disappointed.
What is your area of work?
I do software quality assurance, and so that's, you know, to put it in more common layman's terms, is testing. And so I tested software, websites, web applications. I tested cable TV set-top boxes and applications on the boxes. So a lot of testing is what I did. And so I was, you know, I thought I was a very skilled person in that area, and I believe I was.
And it's also a career which is needed everywhere.
It is, and that was the odd part. So when I left there, you know, I start looking for a job, and I thought it won't be hard to
Sure.
find a job because this is needed everywhere.
Sure.
This is, you know, and here in Atlanta, there are plenty of companies that are looking for people with my skill set. And so I start sending out my resume, and I'm, you know, applying online for various jobs. And, you know, it started out slow, and I wasn't, you know, I went to job fairs and some specific companies that I knew, and because a number of us lost their jobs just at a similar time. And so we were telling each other about the, you know, the jobs that were in our area of expertise, and went to those things, and it wasn't working out for me. Some of them did get
Some of them
jobs.
did. Wow.
Some of them did get jobs, but not me. And so I'm taking this kind of hard, and you know, weeks turned into months, and in the end, in all, I was out of work for 14 months. But God was with us. Again, He provided through my wife's job to help with the education. You know, we didn't fall behind in any of our bills or anything like that. It was really a blessing that I can only attribute to God.
You say it now, but
I say that.
what were your feelings
And that's-
then?
That's exactly, that is the case. But you know, there was another hidden blessing in it. When you work and you have to get up early in the morning, you know, your idea is rush, 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 let me get out and let me get to work and do my work and come home. And I didn't spend very much time in devotion. And so when I found myself out of a job, I had plenty of time for devotion to God. And I think that might have been part of His plan to get me focused on Him. And typically, you know, in the morning, just the morning itself, I would probably spend an hour, hour and a half easily in devotion. And at the end, you know, I would read a lot, and then at the end, and, you know, maybe praying, and my thoughts are there, you know, directed to God. And at the end, I would pray. And then the prayer was when I really was struggling with God. I was, you know, God, you know that I have a family. I have 3 children, a wife, and, you know, I need to work. And day after day, I struggled with God with that prayer. And there were times when I felt really down. I felt disappointed. I thought that God had left me. But He hadn't. And I think it took me a while to figure that out. And I wasn't always down. It was, you know, sometimes I would feel encouraged. But I kept going back and forth, and I think that was the attack of the devil. He was trying to bring me down and to have me turn my back on God. But God was still there for me and my family, and I could see that He was still working in our family. And so,
Excuse me, did you have any support outside of the family? Nowadays we are quite personal and we don't speak much. And that was also a situation when from one day to another you hope maybe tomorrow, so I'm not going to speak because maybe tomorrow it's so why bother other people? Had you anyone
No, but
coming closer to you and you know, entering your experience, or you were mainly alone in that?
it was.
No, we had several.
Did you?
We had several groups of people praying for
yeah,
us.
yeah.
It wasn't a secret.
I know.
Our
I know.
family was great support. You know, our church family as well, and even my school family. You know,
Really?
it was something that we prayed about often. You know, because Reggie was not the only one that was looking for work in our little group.
Yeah.
So, you know, we understood, and it was just great to have that as a safety net, you know, for that support.
And that is true. And I also knew some other people who were out of work, and you know we were trying to support each other. And one is an elder in our church, and at some point he started working for the Adventist Review.
That's the official publication of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
That's correct. And so I would see him on Sabbath, and other times we would talk, and he would say, I had this feeling that God wants us to work together. I'm just getting this impression. And he mentioned that to me a number of times. And, my thought was, well, yeah, maybe, okay, and he told me about his job and the things that he was doing.
Excuse me, so a number of times, but maybe in the meantime, 1 month, 2 months,
Right.
4 months, I don't know.
I would say, and that's very true, I would say I think maybe the first time he mentioned it to me, it might have been in early spring, maybe March here, and it was mentioned maybe 2 or 3 times, and by the time it actually came to fruition, it was November. So, probably 8 months had passed, but we don't know God's timing, right,
Sure.
on these things. But so he keeps talking to me about it, and then he says, I think this might work out. I want you to meet the executive editor for the Adventist Review, and he's going to fly down to Atlanta. I didn't have to go anywhere. I met them at a vegan restaurant here in town, and we had lunch together, and we talked, and that was it.
You may say the name for our viewers, because
Sure.
I have interviewed him twice.
Yes, so it's Bill
Dr.
Knott.
Knott, yes.
Bill Knott is the executive editor for Adventist Review Ministries, and I met him there. We had a good conversation. He seemed impressed. He was the only one that seemed impressed with my skill set. After all of I imagine I must have put out hundreds of resumes and applications.
Wow.
Hundreds, I'm sure.
And he's a very demanding person. He's not easy to please.
Yes, no, it's and yes, the idea is that you have work to do and you need to do it well, and be
He saw
effective.
value. He saw value
I
in
think
you.
so. I think, and I
And
think,
God prepared his mind for that.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Absolutely.
and I think another part of the benefit is they were looking for people who had been in the world. When I say the world,
in the industry.
worldly businesses and
Yeah.
corporations who had experience there, and they were trying to not bring the world
No,
into
no.
the organization, but to bring
The
the organization,
Professional,
the
skills and-
procedures
Yeah.
into so that we become more efficient and more
The
effective.
discipline.
Exactly.
The
And so-
structure.
Right. And so he saw that in myself, and then the other gentleman as well. And there are a number of us, who actually work out of our own individual homes here in Atlanta.
Yes. That
And-
was the reason yesterday I jokingly said maybe before long the home
Atlanta
staff
will be
will
the home
move
base.
here.
Yes, that was, and I didn't understand what you're saying at first, but then when I started thinking, and it's very true, we do have a number of people here.
That
But
was weird.
meeting Bill was a blessing, and before, I think maybe 2 days later, I received a confirmation. Go ahead, we want you to get started, because they had to work out budgets. This was in November, and so your budget plans happen end of the year, and then you implement them for the following year. And so they had to find room in the budget for me and things like that. But within a couple of days, I was working, and that was a blessing. It was even now I'm still there 14 months later.
Praise the Lord.
14 months off of work, and now 14 months I've been there. And we have worship on Wednesdays. I've never had a job where I
Sure.
did that before, where we get together and we pray for one another and we share devotional thought and those sort of things. So it's really a blessing that I'm there. And I think, and my prayer during those difficult times when I was not working, my prayer to God was to put me in the situation that you would have me in, so that I can be a light, so that I can witness for you. And I didn't imagine that this was going to be that
Yes.
situation, but this is where I believe where he had for me. That's why none of the other things worked out, or I would have gone there, and then I would not have been following the plan that he had for me. So throughout all of this, I think God was leading me to this opportunity for
Mhm.
this time, and we'll see how.
He had put aside something better for you.
Yes,
Yeah, but it was hard.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Just,
yes. It was very tough, and you know, having a home and 3 children in Christian education, and not having any income, and unemployment lasts for a very short time, and so you really start going into your savings, and then you start going deeper, and so
Yeah, I'm
it's a
glad
challenge.
you accepted to share with our viewers that personal experience, because in my country, especially among young people, unemployment is a serious problem, making many educated, well-qualified people to leave to work in other countries. I'm not going to say anything bad about that, but at the same time, it really depletes the resources of the country and also of the church in this way. And anyway, it's an uprooting experience with some benefits, but there is a suffering, there is a pain, there is a loss.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm sure listening to your story, it will be an encouragement for many of them. So, thank you. You said something very interesting, that the editor-in-chief was interested in hiring people who have worked for a while in the industry outside of the church. I planned to ask you as well something in the same line. The fact that you have worked for how many years in public schools?
15.
15, yeah. It's a blessing. It's a big joy for you to be able now to work in a Christian school. But your experience in the public schools, does it prove also to be a blessing now in your new job?
It really does.
In what ways?
My experience, I tried to leave my job for a long time. And same as Reggie, my questions were the same, like, why can't I get a job somewhere else? But in the meantime, I was provided lots of opportunity to become a better educator, in that we had lots of different types of training at the school that I was at, because the population at my school was low income, so we had lots of government funds coming in, and along with that, we had to have lots of meetings and trainings and classes. And so at the end, it
You
kind
learned
of...
a lot. You learned a lot, yeah.
Absolutely. And even like in the classroom with instructional strategies and everything, children learn differently. And they were teaching us how to teach children who are coming from homes where, who knows what
Disorganized.
happens through the night when they're not with you. And so there's a lot of distraction. But I just really was able to reap a lot of that benefit from being in public school. And now I can apply the things that I've learned. We have a high ELL, which is English language learners, population at my school. And a lot of those skills that I learned, I can use with that group. And so that's one of the certifications now that I'm getting ready to apply for through the conference. Is I would like to get my master's degree in curriculum and instruction with the concentration in ESOL. And hopefully that will help me, kind of hone my skills and be a better educator as well.
Yeah, and I think also sometimes in church institutions, we tend to become too much a little like a family, where there is no so much structure and accountability, and we tend to confuse church and
It was
work.
an adjustment when I got to my school, because there was not the level of accountability that I was used to, which was good and bad, for me. But I have, adjusted, and I feel that, I've been able to bless other teachers too. Like, these are some things that we did at my other school,
sure.
and they're like, "Oh, what a good idea! Let's try that. Let's do that."
That's good.
And-
So they don't resist. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Change is never easy.
No, it's not.
If I
It's
read
not.
between the lines.
No, but in general, we want what's best for our students. And if we have a best practice that we can share with each other, most teachers, are eager to try that with their students, because at the end of the day, it's all about the kids.
Yes. How it comes that you became interested in this line of work? Was that a passion for you, an interest for you from childhood? Well, childhood is too much said because computer technology was not available
True.
when you were a
Well,
child.
actually, it was.
It was a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, and it was.
The huge machines.
Yes,
True.
or the very small one where it's mostly just a terminal and and a screen, but I really was interested as a child in that. I remember distinctly. I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, and we'll go shopping with my mom at a store. One of the stores like a Walmart. We have here, where it has a broad array of different things that they sell, clothing and furniture, appliances, and computers as well. And so I would go and I would play on the computers, not really knowing what I was doing, but I was always drawn to them. And I would be typing things, and I gradually learned things, how to make the computer print hello on the screen and those sorts of things. So I did have an interest. But as I entered, high school, and I didn't think that's what I wanted to do.
No?
I thought maybe I wanted to be a doctor, and maybe that's one of those things that you hear, oh, you should be a doctor. You're very bright, you should be a doctor. And so I explored. In high school, we had many teen cooperative events where you could go and you can learn about things at hospitals. We also had some that were for engineers and engineering. And when I started,
there are quite ample opportunities to visit such places in Huntsville because of many big industries.
yes, exactly. And there was. I worked, for a number of years for one such company, but I decided that I didn't want to do medicine. I thought I wanted to do engineering.
I see.
And as I went through high school, I got a scholarship to the university there in Huntsville, sponsored by a company called Teledyne Brown Engineering. And we would go 3 quarters in school, and then the summer term, we worked at the engineering company.
Good
and
arrangement.
And so
Very
I
good.
went through and I did that, and I really liked that. So I started in engineering, but then I figured out I'm not sure it's really engineering that I want to do, because I thought I wanted to do electrical engineering. So I switched to computer science, and that's where my interest really blossomed. I was like, yeah, I think I've found where I want to be. And ever since I've been, in love with computers, and, I'd like to spend a lot of time with my computer.
You didn't say, and it would be good to speak about that. What is our current work with Adventist Review?
With Adventist Review, I do some of the quality assurance for the websites and for our applications. We have the 2 main publications are Adventist World website, AdventistWorld.org, and AdventistReview.org. And so I do some quality assurance on those sites. I also do digital publishing, publishing the articles, the same articles that you find in the Adventist World, Adventist Review magazines. We also post to the websites. So I post articles on the website. I also post articles we have an app called AR. It's Adventist Review app, and I post articles in the Android and Apple apps. I've done a variety of different testing on our ARTV platform, which is our video on demand platform where you can share the content. It's normally very short, and it's very good content, very compelling. And so I've done testing, and actually I helped to get that deployed. That was one of the first things I started doing when I joined. They were working on we were switching from one platform to the next, and I was kind of responsible for making sure that things were happening on time and that we got that deployed. And so that's a part of my responsibility as well, digital release management, so applications, websites, et cetera.
So that means that everyone around the world reading Adventist World and Adventist Review on the internet or on different apps or is a beneficiary of your work.
Yes, I would say there's a very good chance that if you go on that site, either of those sites from time to time, you've seen my work. Yes, and didn't know it.
Yeah, I didn't know it. I didn't know it until now. Yeah, I do it regularly, but I had no idea who is behind.
Yes.
Because just the names of the authors are published.
Right, right.
Exactly.
We still have about 13 minutes. It will be a short break and I'll be back.
Okay, sure.
Too much water.
How's it going with you?
Putem continua oricând? Putem continua oricând? So I return to you.
Okay.
So how it was for you? What stirred an interest in education for you?
Well, I come from a long line of teachers.
Really?
Lots of teachers in my family. However, I wanted to be a nurse at first.
Interesting.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to do hair.
Oh.
I wanted to be a hairdresser. And I've always loved doing hair. And when I was in high school, I would tell people that. And my mom said, no, you cannot do hair. She said, you won't make any money. Don't, And I was like, I really wanted to do hair. She said, no, you need to choose another profession. And so I was really interested in nursing. There's lots of nurses in my family too. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'll go into nursing. But as I got into like 11th grade.
So when he wanted to be a doctor, you wanted to be his nurse?
Yes. Well, and who knew, right?
We didn't even know each other.
Who knew? But I realized that biology was not my gift in high school. Though I loved the idea of nursing, that wasn't my thing. And so my mom is a teacher. And so like Reggie was saying, the high school I went to, which is a boarding academy in Florida, we had opportunities during spring break to do job shadowing. And so I decided that I would job shadow my mom. And my mother taught English in a middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And she was so good at what she did. And I was kind of like, my mother taught hundreds of children in and out of her classroom a day, because she taught public school as well. And I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. I think I could do this. I think I could do this. And when it was time to apply for colleges, you can indicate, what you're interested in. And it just so happened that one of the colleges that I applied to, Oakwood, that I had indicated that I was interested in education. And the summer after I graduated high school, I was offered, actually no, it was before graduation, I was offered an opportunity, a scholarship opportunity if I come to Oakwood, that I could come during the summer and get a head start and take 2 classes in education. And so my parents said it was okay, and I went the summer of 1989, and guess who I met? And so we met that summer, actually, while I was at school for taking those education classes. So it worked out.
How long it took for you to become friends and then to get married?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
We became friends instantly, upon meeting. And then we began dating in September, a few months after that, and dated through college. After college, I had an opportunity to go to Korea and be a student missionary for a year.
And you have been there?
Yes,
And
I taught over there.
For
through the
4
school.
years?
Just for 1 year.
1 year.
Yes. And after I came back, we continued our relationship and got married.
Oh, so it was quite a time.
Yes, about 6 years, I think, total
6
before,
years, wow.
from when we met. Is that right?
Yeah, until we got married, at
Yeah,
least.
that's about right, about 6
Been
years.
quite patient.
Yes, he
Well,
was.
we were in college, so
Yeah.
Yes, we weren't gonna
it's-
get married in college.
We weren't that anxious to get married.
I see.
Well, us girls are anxious to get married. And so in my mind's eye, I was imagining getting my diploma and then getting married. But that was not the case. So, but I'm glad that it happened that way because, I got the opportunity to go to Korea.
How it was for you to go there?
Well, it was wonderful. Initially, I had a hard time adjusting to the culture.
The culture. Mhm.
And, but once I was able to do that, oh man, I often think like, if I could go back, I'd be such a better teacher or, I would just love the opportunity to go back and teach there. I made lots of great friends, other student missionaries from other universities, from Walla Walla, from Andrews, from Loma Linda, and then the students themselves were pretty great. We taught university students, and then we taught businessmen. We taught rich women who just wanted to learn English. They had no job, their husbands sent them to school. And, but lots of teenagers whose parents were forcing them to be Buddhist or whatever religion they were. And they were just looking for truth. And we used the avenue of learning English as a way to touch their hearts as well. We would invite them to church and say, hey, come practice your English. Come to a prayer meeting on Wednesday night. Come to our Sabbath program. And many, many, many students gave their life to Christ. And a lot of them had to do it secretly because if they were to tell their parents, they would be disowned, There's a deep cultural dissatisfaction if you did not continue on your parents' religion. So they would get baptized, but a lot of them were fearful about their decision. But it was an awesome time.
Oh, we come almost to the end, which is the very beginning of your life.
Okay.
Share with us a little bit. We have just a few minutes left. Your earliest memories from your family, from maybe worship time or going to church or playing with siblings, and in what ways do you think your beginnings shaped who you are now?
I'll start. I grew up in a home that was Adventist. My parents were Adventists before me. They had. I am the third of 4 children. I have 3 sisters, and my parents became Adventists probably a couple of years before my oldest sister was born. My oldest sister is 4 years older than I am, and so I came into a family of Adventists. We went to church every Sabbath. As I was growing up, I have a sister also that's 9 years younger than me.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a large gap there.
Yeah.
But my father was the head elder in our church. It was a very small church, probably regular attendance, maybe 30, 40 members. But he was head elder. And I was a deacon, a junior deacon, if you will. And we went to prayer meeting every Wednesday night. And because it was such a small group, I was the song leader. So every Wednesday night I was there. I was selecting songs for prayer meeting or asking those that were in attendance. So that shaped me and impressed me. It became natural for me, attending prayer meeting. We visited nursing homes on Sabbath afternoons, and that's something still that I enjoy today. We have a nursing home ministry in our church that I participate in as often as I can. And so that, we had family worship. It wasn't always every day of the week, but we always had Sabbath worship. Sometimes we went through seasons when we had worship every day, and we might even have it morning and night. But then there were seasons when, for some reason, we weren't doing it. But it was always a Christian loving home. I went through Christian education.
Wonderful.
From first grade all the way through 12th. And the school, the Seventh-day Adventist school that was there in my town did not have the major that I wanted. I started in engineering, you might recall. And so I decided to go to a school locally. But I still hung out at the university the Seventh-day Adventist university where my wife went, and that's how I got to know her.
I see.
So, my religion teacher in high school was a gentleman named T. Marshall Kelly. He's a well-known as a singer, and he has also been a pastor before. But he was a very wonderful influence on us. Everyone who attended that high school, that Seventh-day Adventist high school, loved. We called him the elder, and it was a blessing to know the elder and to interact with the elder. He was very humble. He never got upset. He believed in that soft answer turns away wrath thing. But I had a wonderful upbringing, and I think going through all of that, and some people have had similar upbringings and have departed and gone a different direction. But I think somehow for me, all of that grounded me in the church. I've never had a period where, I don't want any part of this. That was not my
And
interest.
you are still leading the Wednesday night
I
prayer
am.
meeting.
Yes.
Very true. Very true. So even now
Yes.
I'm leading the prayer
Yes.
meeting for Wednesday night.
Sabrina, briefly.
All right.
Almost
Very mirrored stories.
Yes.
My parents were Adventists, but my grandparents became Adventists.
Oh.
So my parents were always raised Adventists, and as was I. And I have 2 brothers. I'm the eldest, and my brothers were 4 years apart. And I grew up in a very similar home as Reggie. Same thing, worship, Friday night worship. One thing he didn't mention, our parents, both of us, parents love to entertain and host. And so Sabbath afternoon, our homes were always filled with people.
Very hospitable.
Always. My
Very
parents
interesting.
were always had that open door policy, as did his. And even when we were in college, I spent most of my Sabbaths at his parents' house. And there were always people from the church or from the college, and that was something that we grew up
Wonderful.
with and that we enjoyed doing as well. And just like him, like, I don't know that I've ever had feelings of, I want to leave or I want to see what's out there. And I guess I can attribute that to the way I was raised and just the wonderful experience that I had growing up Adventist. And so we're hoping to expose our children the way we were, and prayerfully, you know, God willing, they will have the same grounding that we did growing up.
Wonderful. Such a heritage received and similar heritage to leave for the next generation.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
very
God
welcome.
continue to bless, to inspire, to empower you.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.